Hello, everyone. Ashley here with a very important announcement. Beginning on August 29th, 2023, the Stitcher app and website will end its operations. What does that mean for you? Well, unfortunately, it means that you will no longer be able to access your shows, your downloads, preferences, or listening history. It's gone. Kaput. Finito. That means you can't even listen to us, and we can't even put anything on the Stitcher app. However, you will be able to continue listening to Ham Radio, Stranger Things podcast, as well as your other favorite podcasts on every major listening platform such as Google, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, yeah, all the majors. Spotify, yeah, I can't believe I forgot about that. Spotify, basically any app on the internet you will be able to access to listen to ham radio or your other favorite podcasts, but you can't do it on Stitcher uh, after August 29th. So again, August 29th, the Stitcher app is going away, and so will its website. Thank you so much, and I'm sorry I had to bring you that very depressing news. I'm Ashley.
And I'm Jasmin.
And you're tuned into Ham Radio Stranger Things podcast.
It's a ham radio.
The Cadillac of ham radios.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to yet another episode of Ham Radio as Stranger Things podcast. We've got a great episode for you today as usual, but first, we have a little housekeeping to take care of, and I'm going to turn it over to Jasmin to let you know where you can find us on social media and where you can listen to the podcast.
Thanks, Ashley. You can find us on Instagram at ham.radio.media, on Twitter at hamthrough, on YouTube at hamradiomedia, or using our handle at hamradio1983. We also have a Discord you can join, which is linked in the description of this episode. If you have a fan theory or question you want to share, you can email us at hamradio@gmail.com. Ashley also has a fanfic on AO3 entitled Stranger Things, The College Years, which is also linked in the description. The podcast is available on all major podcasting platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more. If you like the show, please consider leaving us a rating or review. We have a lot of totally tubular stuff coming up, so be sure to follow us on our socials to keep up with the podcast and all of our new content.
All right, so today on the Ham Radio podcast, we're going to be talking about some Stranger Things 5 announcements and content that were recently announced at the Netflix's TUDUM event from June the 17th. We're going to be talking about the Stranger Things 5 logo. Official logo was also revealed at TUDUM. Netflix expanding its time frame. Jasmin will be talking about some Stranger Things merch, and I will be sharing a little bit of a revelation that I had while rewatching season 1, and then we're gonna end it on just some recent Stranger Things news that is relevant, because at this point, any news is news, even if it's fake news, which we also have to share with you guys today. So to start it off, I will just talk briefly about my thoughts on the TUDUM event itself, and mine is a little bit shorter than Jasmin's. Like TUDUM, like I don't really watch the whole thing like ever, because it's not really you're not really gonna. I found that you don't really get much from it. You sit there for like 3 or 4 hours, and in our case, it literally is 3 or 4 hours until the Stranger Things stuff comes up, and you just kind of go, wow, I spent an entire Saturday, uh, waiting for something big, and that's what it was. So, and especially with Stranger Things content, even if filming were taking place right now, I mean it's like breadcrumbs, and so I always with these things, except unless it's Stranger Things Day I never try to get my hopes up too high because I know I'm going to be let down with a lot of disappointment. So I try to keep my expectations as low as possible in anticipation for these events so that I'm not let down. But all in all, I mean, we did get something substantial, Stranger Things wise, and that was good. But yeah, I mean, my my thoughts on it are the same, going to be the same every year until I'm proven otherwise. So, Jasmin, what your thoughts?
Yeah, like you said, I felt like it was a bit of a letdown this year. I mean, I wasn't expecting like a ton of stuff, but I was expecting more like what they did last year, which is they had the cast, you know, different groups of the cast together. They were doing trivia, they were doing other things. We didn't get a lot of new content, but we got kind of the cast interacting, and so that's always fun. And it was obviously filmed like remotely on a soundstage because of COVID and everything. So I was expecting more something along those lines. So the fact that the actual cast did not appear in any capacity, and like you said, like 3 or 4 hours of waiting around, and then at the end of that, for the big thing to be that Arnold Schwarzenegger introduced Hamilton with the video, but nothing from the main cast. I felt like that was a real letdown for me because I'm like, it's not even like there was nothing pre-recorded. Like for someone who's not even involved in the show, introduce another actor that's now joining the show. Like I don't know, just felt like a letdown. And I think because like there was a few other shows I was watching for. I found like the Bridgerton stuff was really awesome. If there's any Bridgerton fans out there, like we got, Nicola Coughlan was there, we got info, we got pictures, like that was fantastic. And there was Heartstopper stuff for any Heartstopper fans out there. We got episode titles, we got a sneak peek. But then it's like I felt like both Wednesday and Stranger Things were a bit of a cop out because like Stranger Things, like we got a big casting announcement. None of the main cast was there, and then Wednesday the cast was there, but like we got zero new info, and so like Ashley was saying, I felt like I waited around all this time for kind of for nothing. But you and I were talking about this earlier, and then we were thinking, maybe it's something to do with the writer's strike, which it is totally possible. But yeah, I just felt like it was we got even less than last year during which was filmed during COVID. So I think that's why my expectations were a little bit higher because I'm like, well, you know, we're coming out of the pandemic and there should be more, and there was less, which I was disappointed by.
Yeah, and and again, that's why I encourage everyone to out there if you are a Netflix subscriber and you like their shows and their content, you should always try to keep your expectations at least at the minimum, so that you're not completely like, what was that? so so unless you like live under a rock or you're just not in tune with the news or the internet, or if you didn't watch it, it's got a little spoiler alert for you, but the Stranger Things 5 news is we got some casting news, and for me, it was definitely a very big but pleasant surprise, and that is that the legendary Linda Hamilton will be joining the cast of season 5 in an unnamed, unknown role at the moment. And so Jasmin and I are going to share our theories on that. So first and foremost, I would just like to say that I really hope that Linda gets some significant screen time, and it's not like a Robert Englund thing where she's only in one episode for a few minutes, which I understand like why his his casting was done that way, because he approached them, and so they're like obviously like, yeah, we gotta have this guy on because we want to do something more horror, and who better than do that than Freddy Krueger himself. And so they kind of put some things, wrote a lot of the Creole plot around that. So, but with the Linda Hamilton thing, I feel like maybe that was in reverse order. So maybe they already had a role they knew they wanted, to write, and they kind of already had Linda Hamilton in mind. I don't know. That's just my thinking on it. But I mean, I have a lot more specific theories, but I think my biggest theory is like I just think she's gonna be portraying a character that no one, is really expecting her to play. Like, my own hyperactive theory is something like, what if she, her character is Brenner's ex-wife who, in his earlier days with the program before he, got Henry. She was there right working alongside him, but then, after he took in, took in, basically, abducted Henry into the program and started creating this program. Something went wrong or whatever, and she's like, I don't want to be a part of this anymore. She divorced him, and then, she's maybe like, somewhere like in present day, watching everything from Hawkins unfold on the news, and is like, I always kind of figured something like this would happen one day because Martin is taking something too far this time, and she comes to Hawkins to help out Hopper or Owens or 11 or whoever, to work to defeat Vecna, the Upside Down, and really helps fill in gaps to Henry's, the 20-year gap between when Henry first came to the lab and then with the massacre. So that's kind of in the range that I feel like um, she'll be in there. But at the same time, she could be a cameo. I hope not. But that's kind of my principal theory on who she could be playing, or also maybe Mike's Nana. I don't know. She favors Natalia Dyer a lot, but I do know who she will not be playing, and that is Karen Wheeler, an older Alice Creel, an older Virginia Creel. Like that's not that's not happening. Sorry to burst anyone's bubble out there. So, Jasmin, what are your theories?
That's a really good one. I hadn't thought about that, about her playing like a more unexpected role, like her playing, Brenner's ex-wife or someone who was previously involved with the program. That's really good. That'd be super interesting. I think my theory's kind of a bit more mainstream in that I feel like she's going to be playing a terrorist of some kind or government agents, one of those kind of maybe gray characters where they're evil, they appear to be working with the bad guys, but then they turn out to be a good guy, or somebody who is part of that and then realizes that the intel that they're getting is wrong, tries to bring it to their attention. They don't want to hear it, realizes that, they're on the wrong side there. Somebody kind of like that. That's kind of where I lean. But, it would be really interesting to have her play somebody unexpected. And they have done that with other characters. They have, done that with other characters before where, based on their previous type of roles, you'd expect them to play this type of character, but they play this instead. So that's totally possible. But I think it's either something to do with the military or the government or the program. I also agree with, I don't think she's playing like an older version of another character or anything like that. I mean, if she's playing Mike's grandmother, always got to be the living one, which would be presumably on Ted's side, I would presume. Because the one time we hear talk about her mother, one of my grandparents, she says grandma, she doesn't say mom or something like that. So, I like, I mean, Tim was so gosh darn oblivious that I just don't see what they would ever be involved in. I mean, I know you're kidding, Ashley, but just to make the point that I've seen those theories too, that people are like, oh, they're playing a family member, they're playing an older version. And I don't think that either. I think whoever she's playing, they're either previously involved with the program or Brenner or somebody, or working for the military or the government, the CIA or the FBI, or previously involved somehow, or somehow, sees what's happening in Hawkins, decides to get involved, or someone contacts her. That's how I'm kind of leaning in terms of who I think she might play.
Yeah, and majority of the internet believes that as well because I mean you could go on Twitter or Reddit or Tumblr or TikTok, any of the major platforms, and the big theories are, military personnel working with Sullivan, or a federal agent working with Owens, or even, someone related to Henry or from his past. But the main ones are military or government. And I'm not saying that, the people who believe that are wrong. I mean, they very well could be right, but, their biggest basis for that is, oh, well, she played in the Terminator. And even though, I mean, that is arguably her biggest role, playing Sarah Connor in the Terminator, she's done other things that are, popular. I mean, may not be like pop culture popular like the Terminator is, but I mean, she's played other good roles. I mean, she was in Children of the Corn movie in 1984, and then on television in like the late 80s, early 90s, she played on a TV series called Beauty and the Beast, which, from my understanding, was pretty popular in its day. Ron Perlman played opposite her as the Beast. She was obviously the Beauty. So I think that's the big reason the internet chooses to lean that direction. But yeah, I mean, I think it's not going to be anything anyone's really expecting. But I, for one, am very excited. I'm very happy for Linda Hamilton because she, outside of the latest Terminator movie, which came out like 4 or 5 years ago, I mean, and even before then, I mean, she hadn't really done anything in a very long time. So really excited to see her coming on one of the more popular streaming television series, and being an '80s icon herself. It's really amazing to see. So, Jasmine, so you think that Linda Hamill's casting could potentially open the door to some other new characters? You want to kind of talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. And I've seen other people online comment on this too, where, the thing going around is like, no new characters, my ass. You know what I mean? Like, that got made, people made such a big deal about that. And, long-time listeners will know kind of my feelings about this. And I've talked to, Ashley and I have talked kind of off camera about this. But, if you look at the interview where the brother said, no new characters, they're laughing and joking with the interviewer. So I never took that super seriously. I took it more as, okay, the goal is to focus on the core cast, which they did outright say seriously. But they were joking around when they said no new characters. Same way they were joking around in another interview about the bats and them being able to kill people. So I just want to point that out because a lot of the stuff gets put on the internet, particularly on Twitter, and I see it in quotation marks, and people are talking about it in complete seriousness. I'm like, have any of you actually watched the interview they say this in? Because I mean, they're long interviews. Some of these are like over an hour, so it takes time. But if you actually listen to them and you actually look at the context, it's like people are taking this up so seriously, and I'm like, okay, but taken in context, they're obviously joking around. So I never bought into that completely. Yeah, I do feel, one thing that makes me happy about this casting announcement is I feel like it does open up the door to other new characters, since it's clear that they are going to do that, or planning to do that, you know? And as, again, long listeners will know, the only real new character I see a use for in season 4 is a love interest for Will. So, and this makes me feel very like vindicated in that I'm like, okay, they can cast Linda Hamilton in an unknown role, whoever she may be playing, and they have time and the money and the space to do that. They definitely have the time, money, and space to bring in a great love interest for Will and help give him his happy ending. So, not that there's anything about this announcement that specifically indicates that, but to me, it leaves the door open, and I'm really happy about that because what I was hoping for out of the season was, okay, we're focusing on the core cast, we're back in Hawkins, but there's also room for, other characters as needed. Another idea that I really love is, bringing in characters that have been referenced but never seen. and so kind of adding new characters, not just for the sake of it, but, for a plot purpose to give someone a happy ending, to show us something we've only heard talked about, to further the plot. So I'm really excited about that. And the other thing I wanted to talk about was people have also been making comments about Maya Hawkins interview while doing promo for her new movie, Asteroid City. And this is getting misquoted a lot as well. It's very clickbaity, but she's being greatly misquoted on this, I feel. So if you haven't read the article, basically it's being misquoted as her saying that, like, oh, she has mixed feelings about, Robin having a love interest. But if you actually read the article, what she actually says is that, she thinks it's great that Robin's getting love interest, but she doesn't want that to take away from her friendship with Steve or their screen time, because, like, in her personal life, friendships have really been what carried her through. And, Joe Keery's a great screen partner and they have a lot of great chemistry. And so she doesn't want to take away from that. And I think that's a totally valid take. I mean, that's a very important relationship in the show. It's something I really love watching. I think a lot of people do. It's been huge for Steve and for Robin's kind of development as characters. And I wouldn't want anything to take away from that either. And I don't think it will. I mean, I kind of see her romance with Vicky as being something that kind of weaves through the season. It's not going to be a primary focus, because the primary focus is saving the world, and Steve is a part of that plot in a way that, as far as we know at this time, Vicky is not. She could become part of that plot. I mean, I don't know about you, Ashley, but I'm kind of picturing a scenario in which, okay, it's the core cast, but then at some point the parents, the significant others, the other people in this town eventually start to realize, or discover what's going on. Because I mean, there's ash falling from the sky. That only goes on for so long before people start to realize something is up.
Totally. Speaking of Robin's love interest, by the way, and folks, I was contacted recently by the Duffer Brothers themselves, who actually told me this. But yeah, Vicky is the reason that Eddie is no longer with us. So enjoy Molly Ringwald for probably 8 episodes next season and have her talk your ears off all season. And I mean, I just have to say, like, I'm like, yeah, I trust that, the Duffer Brothers had a reason for killing Eddie off. They said he was always meant to die, but I'm like, I can't handle, you know, Chatty Patty for an entire season. Plus the other Chatty Patty, who Robin seems to now be. I had to get that off my chest there. Um, so another thing we got from TUDUM was the official logo of Stranger Things 5. Now, I've seen people, some Stranger Things fans accounts on Instagram say that you can, if you pair it up between 4 previous official logos, that you can spot the difference between it. It's kind of darker. I can't really tell, but that doesn't mean it's not there. But I mean, hey, it's something. It was a little bit emotional for me to watch it, knowing that, going in like, this is the last time we're going to see a new Stranger Things season logo. Like, there is going to be no Stranger Things 6 logo announced. However, I will say that I was hoping for a graphic visual video thing for season 5, like we got for season 4 back in 2019. But I guess the logo is as good, as good as we're going to get. Jasmine, you have any thoughts on the logo you want to share?
Not in particular. I mean, it was what I expected. That's ever since, season 2, it's always been, a number fitted into the existing logo, which, considering it was originally meant to be an anthology series, makes sense. And I've seen other Netflix shows do that, where it's like, oh, we got a second season. Amazing. All right, well, we're just going to slot a number in there. No, that isn't cool. I think the title sequence and the logo, for the show is one of my favorite things. It's one of those shows, some shows you watch, you skip over the title sequence, you kind of move past the logo stuff. This is one that, like, I sit through the entire title sequence that where you watch it for every single time. I love it. I love the whole, the way it all slots in and the characters' names come up, like the way that like they all make a puzzle. I've always loved that. So yeah, it's exactly what I expected to be, and I didn't feel that sense of emotion. But I think once we start, maybe it was Stranger Things Day, but like once it starts sinking in that this is really the last season, probably with Stranger Things Day, or when we get something like really the first like maybe really significant piece of information we get, maybe when filming starts, when it sinks in that this is really the last season, I feel like that's when I'll feel emotional and it'll really sink in for me.
Yeah, yeah, me as well. And like I do with every new season, I watch the intro in its entirety because it's so iconic. But eventually, when I go through rewatches, I'll eventually just skip it because, you know, I already kind of know what's going to come up after the after the intro music, fades out. But yeah, the logo is definitely iconic for sure. So, Jasmine, apparently Netflix is going to be expanding their time frame. You want to tell everyone kind of what that's all about?
Absolutely. So if you haven't heard the news, Netflix is expanding the time frame that determines their top 10 shows. And this has caused a lot of controversy online because under this new system, Wednesday moves ahead of Stranger Things, which in terms of why they're doing it and the expansion, a lot of people are saying, okay, well, this means we might get another season of this show that I love because the metrics are expanding. So for all of you people out there, you have a show that's kind of on the bubble. Netflix is famous for, greenlighting, certain things and then, canceling others and people are like, what happened? So for all those fans out there, that's great news. The controversy comes from the fact that under this new system, Wednesday moves ahead of Stranger Things, which I don't think is entirely fair in the sense that like Wednesday was a great show and I'm excited for season 2, but was it at the acting, special effects, directing, emotional level that Stranger Things 4 was? I don't think so. Like if you see the amount of work that went in from actors, directors, showrunners, costume designers, set designers, special effects artists, like the level of work that went into Stranger Things 4 was absolutely on an epic scale. And a lot of work went into Wednesday. It's not, you know what I mean? It's the same handful of sets. It's not quite the same in terms of, scale or amount of work that went in. So that's a lot of what's causing the controversy. So Netflix is tweaking its all-time top 10 lists by expanding the time frame from 28 days to 91 days or 4 weeks to 31 weeks to better account for long-term popularity and also ordering by accounts viewed, which means that these streamers or weekly rankings will now show the most popular titles by number of accounts watching as well as total time. Although there's also controversy about that because people say, when something shows up as a top 10, people are like, well, is that really the top 10 or are they tweaking it for what you want to see? So there's lots of controversy about that. And so under the new ranking system, Squid Game is still the all-time leader for any Netflix title. But under this new system, Wednesday moves ahead of Stranger Things, season 4, atop the English language series list based on the longer window and the views metrics. So that's what's going on with that. That's the controversy. So, we're here to, bring you Stranger Things news and, all kind of related news. We got something for everybody, truly.
Yes, we do. And I'll say, for this, like I don't really, pay much attention to things like this. I mean, it's fun, while new seasons are out to, do like bragging rights as part of your fan base. But as someone who watches both Stranger Things and Wednesday, I mean, I like both of the shows, and yeah, I'll agree that Stranger Things is, by far the more superior show to Wednesday, but perhaps like Stranger Things, maybe as Wednesday grows in popularity, their budget will increase as did Stranger Things when season 2 and then season 3 and of course season 4 uh, premiered. So we'll see. But I do have a little my own little theory about why maybe Netflix is trying to do this, and I really do think they are trying to prepare for a post Stranger Things Netflix world, Netflix era, because when Stranger Things first premiered in 2016, I mean, the only original Netflix series I remember that was on there at the time was Orange is the New Black, and it's like all of a sudden after Stranger Things, it just skyrocketed on Netflix. Everyone wanted, a piece of that pie, if you will. And if you look at a lot of the original Netflix series that are on there today, I mean, there's a lot of elements from Stranger Things within those series, and so you definitely know which who seems to be the cream of the crop over there on the streaming platform. And I think too, for Wednesday, like I think like Jenna Ortega, I think is a very talented actress, and even though I mean she's older than Millie Bobby Brown was in 2016, Millie Bobby Brown was like the up and coming it girl back then, and not that she's not anymore. I mean, if you look at her upcoming projects, like 3 of them are going to be on Netflix, so she's definitely Netflix's quote unquote it girl. But I think they're trying, to get Jenna Ortega kind of in that same vein as well. And so I think maybe they think, well, by doing this, we'll be able to give those other shows a chance, and then perhaps we'll have a future after Stranger Things is over. But that's my own theory. I could be totally wrong. So we got a little bit more Stranger Things merchandise. They released on the official Stranger Things writers Twitter account a nail bat Nerf gun. It looks totally awesome. We'll post that link in the description of today's episode so you guys can go check it out for yourselves. But it's great to see the nail bat still in in everyone's hearts because it's a very iconic prop for the show, and one we haven't seen in 2 seasons now because the last time it was used was in season 2. But Jasmin got some Stranger Things merchandise of her own. Jasmin, would you like to share?
Yes, I would. It's not a Nerf gun nail bat, which is I think it's just becoming available, but it's the I got the Stranger Things playing cards from Fury 11, and they just arrived and they are epic, and I'm so happy with them. I would highly recommend this to all of our listeners. This isn't like a paid promotion or anything. It's just they're really cool. They're really cool. And when they did a whole bunch of merch drop recently, there were there's the VR stuff and there's the new board game, and there's a lot of really great Stranger Things merch out there. But I was looking at a lot of it, and I'm like, this is super cool. But would I actually use it or play with it? And so that's why I got the playing cards because I'm like, I generally love playing cards, and it's something kind of cool and it's small, easy to move. When I move apartments or whatever. So they're super cool. I think with taxes in, they were around like $30. So, they're obviously a bit more expensive than your average playing card, but still reasonable. They're really cool. So each of the face cards has one of the main characters on it. There's also one that's got 2 main characters on it. The package it comes in, all of it's like holographic, and it's got this little piece of tape on it that's property of Hawkins National Laboratory that you have to break open, which I thought was cool. There's so many little details. And something I love is that a lot of the products, when I got them, was I'm like, okay, this is really cool. You won't be able to get these probably after season 5 comes out, right? Because they'll have a new deck of playing cards, a new something. And something I love is that the cards have these little Easter eggs, like, in the face cards, when there's a character there, you have a character and they're holding things or there's things around them. And they've got things from all 4 seasons. So not just season 4. There's some character cards where it's primarily season 1, but then there's some season 4 stuff. And you have other characters where it's like that's primarily season 2, but some season 3, season 2, season 4, primarily season 3, but that's also from season 1. So there's really like a combination of things, which is really cool because a lot of the collabs and merch drops will be specifically for that season. And something I found is that, looking back on it, there's a bunch of stuff that dropped for season 3 that's no longer available. And I'm like, wow, that would have been so cool to get. So highly recommend them. I'm going to be doing a full video on my TikTok, showing the cards off. So if you're, that's, if you want to see what they look like before you buy them, or you just want to take a look at them, make sure to go check that out because, yeah, they're just really, really cool. They look cool. The quality is really nice. I'm just really happy with them. You know, when you buy something, you're like, wow, I spent good money on this, and this thing is awesome. Because sometimes you buy something and you're like, you spend a lot of money on it. It doesn't turn out as good as you wanted it to. You're like, oh, this is kind of crappy, but these are really good. So I'm just super happy with them.
And they look super awesome, folks. And if you have the means, we encourage you to do so. Go buy them and play some Go Fish, or in this case, Go Gorgon with your family. I'm sure you'll have a lot of fun. And just speaking of fun, Jasmine, what's open up there in Ottawa?
Yeah. So in other news, Ottawa is getting its first roller rink since the '80s, which just opened up last weekend, which is super cool because there used to be like a ton of roller rinks in Ottawa, and then like at kind of the end of like the disco like roller skating craze, all of them closed, and so they just opened up a new roller rink. It had its grand opening last weekend. It went super well. I'm super excited to be going. Uh, it's really cool for the city. We haven't had anything like this in a really long time. I think the last one closed in like 82. Yeah, 82. So I'm super excited. When I do end up going, I'm going to take some pictures so we can show everybody. But hopefully there will be no Angeles. There will not be any attacking with roller skating, you know, attack by roller skate incidents. I have to,
Yes.
I have to tell this story. So I was just on the phone with my mom, and I was explaining this to her, and it was so cute. She was so excited. Like she lives nowhere near me, but she's like, "Oh my gosh, you're gonna love it! It's so much fun." She's like, when I was a teenager, we used to go roller skating every weekend. It was all we did. Like best times of my teenage years. So much fun. Like nobody has ever been more excited for a roller rink than my mother was when I told her. And again, she lives nowhere near me. But it was just so cute. She was just so excited. Like it clearly brought back like
Old
memories of hers
memories.
from for like the '70s.
Yeah.
So that was so cute. It
Well,
was it
I
was so
remember,
adorable.
like, I remember going to the roller rink, as a kid, myself. I mean, it was a lot of fun, even though I fell on my butt, most of the time. And also, like, I think the biggest advice that I could ever give someone, um, when going to a roller rink, especially if you wear a dress, don't wear a dress to the roller rink because, I mean, you have a 99% chance you're going to fall at least once out there because, like, as soon as your foot, hits the rink, I mean, it's pretty slippery out there. So, if you wear a dress, don't wear a dress to the roller rink. I recommend pants, but not jeans because they might rip if you fall. So, that's my advice to everyone, including you, Jasmine, if and when you go to the roller rink. So,
Well, keep that in mind.
uh, you're welcome in advance. uh, so, since a lot of times I don't have a lot to do, as I power down for the night, so I've been rewatching Stranger Things for the past week or so, and I started, of course, with season 1, and I had a revelation while I was watching season 1. Now, some of you may go, when I tell you this, you may go, well, yeah, I mean, isn't it obvious? But others, you may be like, oh, really? I didn't realize that. So, the theory for like a long time, since like season 1 came out, was that 11 opened the gate, the Demogorgon escaped, and she fled the lab on the same day. And for a long time, I really did believe that because it was so obvious, the contact and making contact with Mr. Gorgon. um, seemed to scare her really bad, and there was a lot of confusion. So, she just fled. But then, I was rewatching season 1 this time. I realized that can't really be the case because, number one, the first time we ever see her on screen, she's wearing a hospital gown, um, which we know had a tear in it, and the fabric was found on the mouth of the tunnel. But when she opens the gate, she's still underwater with that water suit, whatever you want to call it. So my realization is, okay, either if she did escape uh, on the night that she opened the gate, it had to have been after they got her out of the tank, and maybe they put her in a room for the night, and then she realized, this is it. I can't handle this anymore. I have to get out of here, and that's what she did. Um, or it might not even have happened on that night. It could have happened like literally the next day. What if first time we ever see 11 on the screen is like moments after she escaped the lab? I mean, it's very possible because, she doesn't know if it's night or day outside because she unfortunately, lives in the lab where there are no windows or anything for her to look out of. She's, trapped in the basement essentially of that facility. But I do know that she is the reason the Demogorgon got out because she opened the gate and then the Gorgon, he fled and then that's when he went to Will. So yeah, that had to have happened in order for Will to have been taken. But my revelation is 11 did not um, immediately flee the lab in the chaos of the gate opening and what we can assume the Demogorgon getting out. It had to have happened a little bit later than that because of the clothing. Jasmine, do you have any thoughts on that? Or
Yeah, I mean, when you first told me that the other day, I was really surprised because as soon as you said it, I was like, oh my God, you're right. Like when I thought about it, but I just never thought about it that way before. Like I kind of accepted that information until you said that, and then we started talking about, okay, well, she's in the hospital gowns and she's in the, the suit she wears in the tank, but then later in the flashbacks we see the sweatpants and those outfits, and we also see them in the hospital gowns, and then in like even earlier flashbacks we see, Ellen Kelly in the little like jumper outfits. And I said to you, I was like, if that's not intentional. It's odd that they put that in the script and have the costume department like put them in different outfits, because I mean you could make the argument that like, okay, yeah, they were still figuring out what they were doing in season 1, but by season 2, like, I mean, I have to believe that was intentional, because a lot of those flashbacks come later, right? We get stuff in season 2, then we get stuff in season 4. So yeah, I had just never thought about it before, and you and I have talked about our hope that we're going to see, flashbacks or kind of more of the story of how Al got in the lab and what really happened to Bill. As they try to uncover more about what happened with Vecna and try to figure out a way to defeat him for season 5. We've talked about our hopes for that, and I would really love to see, flashbacks to that or hear the characters talk about it. Because yeah, I'd never questioned that timeline until you said that, and then you said that, and I was like, yeah, you're so right. There's no way. It's no way that we went right from the tank to the hospital gown to the escape. I mean, it's possible, I suppose, they went, got her cleaned up, and brought her back. But I mean, again, if we're going with the chaos there, the Demogorgon got out. I mean, it doesn't make sense for like someone to calmly take her back to her room, get her cleaned up, and regowned, and then be like, now that we've calmly done this, let's go deal with the Demogorgon that's going through the hallway. Like this doesn't really,
yeah,
like there's that chain of events doesn't really make sense, and it's established that you can hear like if something's wrong in one part of the building, you can hear it in the other parts of the building. They understand very clearly across multiple seasons. So Yeah, I mean, I think you're right, and I'm sure that theory is out there. I'd never heard that or seen that before until you mentioned it. So yeah, I think you're right, and I really hope we're gonna get more information about that because I feel like the more we think about it and the more people we watch and and everything we got in season 4 just opens up even more questions than we had before. I mean, there's just I never would have expected that we'd come out with season 4 with even more questions than answers, or that rewatchers would bring up so many questions, but they have. So I'm really excited for hopefully finding out about that timeline and what actually happened and what we didn't see, and yeah, I would love that.
Yeah, so would I. And two is just knowing now what I know after season 4, like whenever she got out the lab in season 1, I mean, she obviously pulled a Henry and eliminated uh, some people, like mostly guards, along the way because there's no way she was just going to get out of there unscathed. So we're going to wrap up today's episode by giving you some recent Stranger Things 5 news. Horror film director Dan Trachtenberg is set to direct an episode of season 5, but it has been confirmed it will not be episode 1, The Crawl, but he will be directing one episode from season 5. And apparently, Stranger Things showrunners are very excited about him coming on board. His two biggest films that he's directed are the 10 Cloverfield Lane and Prey, which is on Hulu. And they definitely, if you can look them up for yourselves, but they um, really play into the apocalyptic, horror genre stuff. Definitely what they're definitely going to be looking for this season. So really, really excited about that. And then we had some other breaking news, even though it turned out to be fake. That was Jodie Foster joins the cast of season 5, and that was quickly shot down by the Stranger Things writers' Twitter account. I mean, just the most brutal roast about always having your facts together before you publish something online. And I agree with them um, because, like, okay, yeah, this particular Twitter account that posted this, okay, they looked out when they posted like a week before the Linda Hamilton announcement was made. Okay, but come on. Like, they're not going to have two very iconic, leads in one season, and especially the final season. But I mean, it would be pretty awesome. But yeah, it's not happening. Jodie Foster is not going to be acting in season 5. Jasmine, quick thoughts on either one of those announcements?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm interested to see how Dan Trachtenberg, how his directing is like. I mean, personally, the directing I'm tuning for is Sean Levy and the Duffer Brothers, but I am interested to see kind of, what that episode is going to be like. And people have speculated it's going to be something towards the end of the season or one of the big battles, which I could definitely see, if that's what their background is in. And I will say that if that kind of thing had been announced prior to season 4, I think I would have been more concerned because I'm not into horror, But I think because there's a lot of hype about being darker, more mature, more horror like for season 4, and I really really enjoyed season 4, and I didn't find it didn't feel like horror to me. It felt more there was elements of horror for sure, but the things I dislike most about horror, kind of the jump scares and that kind of thing that we did see a little bit of in season 1. So I'm honestly excited. Like, I think they're trying to do some really cool things with their final season while keeping it closer to home. And so I'm honestly excited to see, what he's going to bring. And I have faith. I mean, I feel like, yeah, it's going to lean more into horror elements, but so did season 4, but also while keeping true to the essence of the show, because I think the Duffer Brothers are well aware that people are not, it's not a horror series. It's not what people are tuning in for. It's
Yeah.
a sci-fi fantasy nostalgia series rooted in these characters that people have come to, love and or hate as if they are real people. And
Hmm.
you can see how aware that they are. So yeah, I'm excited, honestly. And as for Jodie Foster, love her, but people really need to check their sources and not go blasting things, especially when you're on a platform that the writers have an account on, because it's
Yeah.
not great.
Yeah, I know. Well, that will complete today's episode. Um, we want to say thank you, everyone, for joining us today, and we'll see you guys next time on the show.
And that's our show. If you like what you heard today, be sure to subscribe and tell your friends. Our theme music is provided by Neon Nights, and our sound editing is provided by Ashton Cooper. Thank you for listening to this episode of Ham Radio, a Stranger Things podcast. Please join us next time, same dial, same time.
Over and out.